It's good to see everybody back. We're gonna start on. We're up to Yud Dalet on the base. Halacha Gimel, the Mishnah Abracha Slaimos. I'd like to give it the Mishnah outside to you. It's something that you say very often, and you should know about it. We know that different animals brought different nisachim, accompanying every carbon, not every carbon, many carbonis, oilas, shlamim, were something called nisachim. And nesach means literally a libation, the lashon the geese, to pour. There was oil, flour, that was one, and then was oil, wine. And we say, so for bakar, anything that is the livestock, heavy duty livestock, the amount is 3 esrainim, a flour, 3 esrainim, a flour, and chatzi hahin. A hin is 12 loigin, so chatzi hahin would be 6 loigin. So for every bakar, whether it's an egel, whether it's a live, it's a calf, or it's a full-grown ox, you're going to bring 3 esrainim of flour and chatzi hahin. Okay, for an ayil, which is a sheep that's 13 months old, anything above 13 months old, 12 to 13, it's called a palgas. Less than that, it's called a keves. Above that, it's called an ayil. An ayil, you're going to need 2 esrainim flour and a third of a hin, or four loigin. For a sheep or a goat, that then you're going to bring one isar of flour, and a quarter of a hin, or 3 logan. So it's 3, 4, 6, and 1, 2, 3 in the degradations. You say it all the time. You say it every time. You say every day. You say kabbanis. That's what it means. There's one unique carbon that has an additional nesach, which is, it's kind of nesach, but it's additional loig of flour. That's the mitzayra. The mitzayra. There's 2 types of mitzayraim. There's a mitzayra that we call the mitzayra usher. He's going to bring three sheep, 2 males and 1 female. So he's going to bring nine loigim. He's going to bring 9 loigim. In addition, he's going to bring an extra loig, because the mitzvah had to have poured on his right thumb, the big foot, and on his head, it's loig of shemen. So he brings 10. Those are the 3. And so in the Beis Hamikdash, the way it worked was, people did not bring their own loigim or their own flour, because they'd have to be shomerit from Tumah, right? An animal which is not makabel tumah when it's alive, it's no problem. You didn't have livestock in the Beis Hamikdash that you'd sell livestock. They didn't have like a whole barn there, so the person would bring his own carbon. Good. On the other hand, the sachin that accompany the carbon, which you have to be nizer in tumah v'tayra, so therefore you would samich in the Beis Hamikdash. You would go to the Beis Hamikdash. You would go to the Reb. We're going to see to a person who's in charge of the petek, in charge of the tickets. And you say, I need a ticket for a bakar, or I need a ticket for this. He'd give you the ticket, he'd pay. Then you go to another fellow, and that guy would give you the company what you need for your carbon. So that's the Mishnah that it's under discussion now. Okay, so let's see what we have. Says the Mishnah, Arba chasaimis hayab migdash. There were 4 chasaimis in the migdash for kasav aleim, and it was written on them the following: Egel, 1, Zachar, that's an ayil, that's a ram, a male ram. Gidi, right, that's or a goat, a lily or keves. The chayta or a chayta, and that's the mitzayra. Mitzayra is called the chayta because of various reasons that a person gets tzaras. Ben Azayayma, hey, there were 5 tickets, hayu. But Ramis kasav aleim, and it was written in Aramaic. Egel, the car is Zach, is Aramaic male. Gidi, and chayta dal, that's a chayta dal, meaning he's bringing a sheep and 2 birds, and birds do not have nesachim accompanying them, right? So basically, he's bringing a gedi plus 1 loy, guys. Again, guys, let's do the math is pashut. Guys, look at me. If he's bringing 1 sheep and 2 birds, so the 2 birds don't count for anything. 1 sheep is accompanied by 3 loigin, or a quarter of a hin, but he's bringing an additional loy, which is 4 loigin. So it's unique because as opposed to a gedi, which is 3, it's 4. So the Chacham and Taka don't hold that extra one he would bring from home. It wasn't part of the petek. Whereas Ben Azai holds no, that you needed that because it's an additional different type of carbon. So Ben Azai, I'm a hey hayu. That we said the chayta asher. Egel mishamish and nischei bakar gedalim getanim. An egel was this nischei bakar, whether it's that's again chatzi ahin and 3 esron of flour. Zacharim and nekevais gedim whether male or female. Gedim mishamish and nischei atzoin gedalim getanim zacharim nekevais. Chutz mishal elim, with the exception of the karbonis that require an aisle, such as an asham. Aisle mishamish and nisle elim belvad, only males. Choita mishamish and nisle sholish behemos, right? All three types of behemos, right? Mitzayra of a mitzayra. Mishum mavakish nesachim hoylach le'etzel yochanan shum memuna al chaslemis. Someone who needed a nesach would go to Yochanan, who was in charge of the tickets for Noisenla, and he'd give it to him. They give him money. He would accept from him a signature. For Noisenla, he'd give it to him. In the evening, boy and Zaitzel said the Achia would come to Yochanan. This one would take out the tickets. And then we'd go ahead and they'd say, you should be able to go ahead and do the banking and figure out the accounting to make sure that's, as we say in Yiddish, alles stimmt, right? Alles stimmt. So, however, in Pachasur, if there's a shortage, Pachsuloi Visham Yochanan Besa, Yochanan, who was in charge of that, would have to make up the money from his house. Then Haisiru, if there was extra, someone gave a ticket and didn't use it. Haisiru Lehegdish, then the extra was Lehegdish. Yad Hegdish Alal Yoina, Hegdish always gets the upper hand. Nisha of it choismai, someone who lost his choisim, right? This is like easy biz, right? You lose your ticket on the turnpike, you're gonna have to pay the max, right? Misha, but in this case not. Well, what is it? Misha of it choismai, and he says I had the choisim of X or Y or Z, right? I had either an ayil or a gdi or a zach. So the im haisiroi, excuse me, Misha of it choismai mimasina loy ad ha'erev. Wait till the evening. The matzuloi kidei choismai. Now, let's say he lost his chaysim, but you count the money, and you have the money of the ticket. He says the money for a sheep or the money for a ayil or a baka. Then, nice to know, you'd give him his wad, his fair due. You'd give him his wad, his correct amount. For him lav, but if it wasn't the same amount, you shouldn't give him anything. The shame how you kosav aleihem. The shame hayoim, the day of the week, they would write on it mifnei haramoyim. Let's say a person found a chaysim, so he'd use his, and he'd keep the chaysim for another time where maybe went up in price or down in price, and he saved himself a few shekel. So they would go ahead and they had an expiration date. And as we're going to see, it was much more than an expiration date. They had the mishma, they had the week, they had the month, it was very tough to go ahead and fool Mother Hashem. Says the Gemara. Now, Ben Azai said there was 5 guys, right? Ben Azai said there's a 5th. Ben Azai choyta da lama. What lama haya? Right? Maybe loiga imoi. Right? He held that you had to bring the loig with it. Guys, a gedi is what? 3 loig. And if you're a choyta dal, there's a 4th loig for your hair, right? Choyta for even. So therefore, you'd have to bring that. So there was a separate one. There never was a ticket that stood for 4 loig. There was a ticket that stood for 3 loig. But there is one, in fact, it's the Mitzayra who has to bring what? He has to bring either 10 loig, right? 10. If he brings 3 sheep, he's going to bring 3 is 9, and 1 is 10. And if he's poor, he's going to bring 1 sheep, 2 birds, and therefore he's 10. It's 3 and 1, 4. So therefore, he needs a special one. Maybe he would go ahead and bring the gedi, and he'd bring one from his house. Now, nischei rachel. What about an old sheep? What's the din about a sheep that's what? The chachamim. I guess they're one log. I guess not. I guess for one log they're not worried. I had that question as well. Now, Rachel Ben Azai is worried. That's why he says you have to bring that. Now, what about a Rachel? Now, a sheep, a female sheep that's more than a year old, right? Is there anything special for that? Or no, it's just in the category of sheep. It's a 3. It's a 3. Guys, it's either 3, 4, or 6, right? Is it a 3 or 4 or 6? So that's what we want to know. It says Rachel it says ma de taninon, right? We can learn from our Mishnah. Gidi mishamesh nithlit soin gedolim uketanim zechorim nekevos. So what does it say? Good. So had the army nischei rachel can nischei gedi. The chsiv kocha yasel l'shor echad oy la'ayel echad oy l'seh bakvasim oy beizim l'shor echad lo menemar. What now? It says in another pasuk, guys. It says in pasuk. This is pasuk Yirav. It says in pasuk Tes nischei shor. So why does that have to repeat it? So we're going to I'm going through this Gemara very quickly. You'll see it's very easy. says Magid shleichilek bein niskei egel and niskei shar. The reason why it says niskei shar is to teach me there's no difference between the age of an ox. You're always going to bring guys. You're always going to bring six. You're always going to bring six legin, no matter what. If it's a year old, if it's 2 years old, 3 years old, you're always going to bring six legin. Shahayu bedin, that there should be a difference. A very good difference. Bedin. Ben that sign toyin nesachim, uben baka toyin nesachim. Ben that sign needs nesachim and baka needs nesachim. Imat son of shechilik ben niskei keves and niskei ayol. We find the distinction between what the nesach of a sheep and the nesach what of an ayol. The nesach of a sheep is 3. The nesach of an ayol is 4. L'kach nachlu ben niskei egel and niskei shar. Therefore, there should be a distinction between what a calf and a bull. Tamaloyma kocha yasir l'shar echad. There's no difference. It's always going to be it's always going to be a 6. It's always going to be a 6. Okay, David, we're holding on Tesvav Amid Aleph. How many lines down? Like 2 lines down. Kochi Yasel Shor Echad, right? Is that what we're up to? Good. Oila ayil. So we're up mamish to the top. Tesvav. Oila ayil echad. Oila sebak. Okay, where am I? Oila ayil lama namash yibedin. Imatzanu shechilik ben niskei ben shonel. Niskei ben shnasayim. We make a difference between a tzoin, a sheep that's a year old, and a tzoin that's 2 years old. That's an ayil. L'kach nachlik ben niskei shnasayim niskei sholish. I might think you make a distinction between a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. Hamalayma oila ayil echad. Right, that's it. This ayil, that's it. 2-year-old. Oila sebak fasim lama nema shayibedin. Imetzana shechilik be niskei keves and niskei ayil. Again, a keves is a 3 lug and a ayil is a 4 lug. L'kach nachlik be niskei kivsel and niskei rachel. We should make a chilik between a female sheep and an older female sheep. Tamalayma oila sebak fasim. Oy beizim lama nema. What is the oy beizim? Shayibedin. In Matzana shechilik be niskei keves and niskei ayil, 1 or 3 to a 4. L'kach nachlik be niskei gedil and niskei tayash, which is an older goat. Tamaloymar oy beizim. Hekish katan shebeizim legadol shebetayashim. Mazeh b'shalish logim. Just like a small goat is with 3 logim, Av says so to an old goat is b'shalish logim. Okay. V'shem ayom kasav. We said there were amoyim that you're worried about. They're gonna lie and they're gonna pick up a petek and they're gonna use it at another time where it was a little cheaper. So the Gemara is establishing that the to avoid that pitfall, they came up with a plan, and the plan was to write the name, the date on the petek. The person will match up that day. They look at the day, it says Tuesday, and it'll show up on a Tuesday when it's cheaper and we use it. So you didn't accomplish what you wanted to do to avoid the Ramayas, you didn't accomplish it. So, says the Gemara. So what did they write on it? Shem Mishma Hayakaisav. They wrote the shame of the Mishma that served the week. We know there were different Mishmarim. Each Mishma had 6 Bati Avais, and so they wrote the Mishma. They'd wait. Basically, they worked twice a year, and they'd wait 6 months and then use it a day of the week. Says Mishma. So you didn't accomplish anything. Says Shem Ayoim, Shem Shabbos, right? The date. The day of the week, the day Shem Chodesh, the month, and Oisa Mishmar, Shem, right? Haya Kaisav Olav, Afilu Shem Chodesh, Haya Kaisav Olav, Afilu writes the Zayg, Matz the Zayg. So much Ad Kedei Kach, he won't be able to go ahead, Rod, and make such a Ramois. So therefore, he didn't do that. Shtei Lishakas Hayav and Migdash. There were 2 lishkos in the base of Migdash. Achash lishkos Chashayin. One was called the lishkos of whispering, very secretly, very clandestinely. And we're going to show the beauty of giving tzedakah in a very, very bakavadik manner. And it's learned this guy's a good source to know. It comes up this concept of giving tzedakah of matan b'seisa, giving it in a stiller height way. It was called the lishka was called lishnei chashoy, literally of whispering. V'yachas lishkas hakelim, and one was lishkas hakelim, lishkas chashoyin. Yerechet, Noisn V'Soicha B'Chashoy. He would go ahead and they would put in the lishka. They would put in their tzedakah quietly, so no one would know who gave it. And V'Aniyim B'nei Toivim, and the Aniyim, who were the sons of people of higher calling, who are now down on their luck. In other words, a person who is an ani their whole life, they're not so embarrassed to go ahead and take tzedakah. But a person who once upon a time was more established and is down on his luck, for them it's very, very difficult. So therefore, the Mishnah points out, aniyim hu b'nei tovim, they come from more an aristocratic crop of people. So in that case, mispanis misaycha b'chashay, they would go ahead and quietly be mispanis from this area, and that's what it's called, the lishkas chashay, lishkas hakelim. Kol mishu misnadev kli, anyone who was misnadev a kli, zorka l'soicha, would throw it into this lishka. V'achas l'shleishim yom, and once every 30 days, hagizborim parchs, and I saw that because gizborim would open it up. Any kli that had physical usage for the bedek abayis, they would leave for the bedek abayis. And things that were not usable, some of the stuff you got for your wedding present, like you didn't necessarily, you wonder who gave it to you. Some people. I have somebody who gives me all my kids a silver candlestick havdalah holder, and nachtetzu, he puts his name on it to guarantee that you know who it is. Like they might ever use it, But okay. V'ashayim chorim, and the rest are what? Are solved the meim noifel lebedek habayis. So the bedek habayis. So the first thing in the Mishnah, guys, what do we see? It's called the lishlas chashoy. A beautiful Gemara. Went to Shekalim, all of a sudden turned geschmack is geschmack, right? We went from Tamura to Taka Tamura. He made it Tamura. Went from this really hard Gemara to this geschmack agarata. Very famous agarata. Rav Yaakov bar Idi, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Nachman, Havi Parnasim. They were mefarnas in the tzibur. They were the leaders of the community to provide for the tzibur. Vayovin Rav Chama of Avud Rav Yehoshaya, they would give the money to the father of Rabbi Yeshua, dinar, who Yov lei lechuranan. He would give to the aniyim who were very embarrassed to go directly to the parnas, by going to somebody, an intermediary that you don't know. I know somebody gives tzedakah. He says, somebody gave me money to give to you. It's much more bakavidik than here. They did it. There's a source, a Judaic source for all of this. Reb Zachariah Chasnei the Reb Levi. Reb Zachariah was the son-in-law of Reb Levi. Hayu, and Hakol Malizin, of people will go ahead and speak lashon hara about him. Amru, the late Sarich, he doesn't need tzedakah, v'unasav, and he takes it. It didn't stop him. I mean, the damech, when he was dying, when he died, Bodkin, they checked v'ashachin. He will give it to other people. That's what he did. He took it, but he gave it to others. He would go out at night to go ahead and, that people should know he would go out at night. One time he met up with a shade. We had the Gemara, the Zugais, the night, right? So Amalei, the shade said to Reb Chanina, Papa, Loikein Olfen Rebbe, didn't you learn like Sasa Gvul Riacha? You're not supposed to be Master Gvul, and the Gvul is the boundaries of my time. This is you're in my turf, right? You're in my turf. Samalei, Loikein Kasiv, Matan B'Seisa Yechaper Af, a Matan B'Seifa, it goes to the head and it overturns Af anger. But it's Geschmack, guys. Af is also the name of a shade. Af is also the name of a shade. It's a malach. So in other words, it's more than that. The Havi Mustafi Mine, and the shade was skitter of China Bapapa, Farik Min Kameh, and he got up and he ran away from him. Labrius. Amrab Yoina. Ashrei Noisin Ladal Ein Kasif. It doesn't say fortunate is the one who gives to the poor. Ella Ashrei Maskil Eldal. Fortunate is one who maskil thinks of original, intelligent ways to give in a way that is very bakavidik. Right? People who look at the mitzvah exactly how to do this mitzvah. When Rabbi Yoina would see an ani again from people who were of aristocratic bearing, that they went down from their position. Listen, listen, I know you're going to get a Yerusha. I heard you got a Yerusha. It didn't come in yet. So until it comes in, here, take this money. And then when he gave it to him, he said, you know what? Keep it. You keep it. It's a matana. Chia barada is have a sabin biyumin. Chia baraba is have a sabin biyumin. In our days, there was a kanim. Man have a yov lohain between Reish Shasel Tzuma Rabba between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur have a nasvin. They would take it. Min basa kain after Rosh Hashanah and Kippur loy have a nasvin. they would not take it. Amr, they would say the Shasa Gabon, the years in front of us. Between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur had been decided how much we're supposed to get. But Shai now, it's if the Yom Kippur, the Gemara din is finished, and we know exactly what we're supposed to get. Nechemia ish sichin, Nechemia is sichin. So that was his name, right? Paga bo Yerushalmi echad. He met a Yerushalmi Yid, and Amalei Yerushalmi Yid said to Reb Nechemia, Zacha ami chodetana golta. Be mizakami with a hen. Give me chicken. So Amalei halachach to misa. Here's some money. The kupi b'zav and go buy yourself meat. Haste, this chicken was more precious than meat at that time. Yeah, believe it or not, chicken was more precious than meat. And Goy said, in other words, you're saying, why do you need such finery? Why do you need chicken? Go ahead, you eat meat. So anyway, he went v'zav and kupin. He went and bought meat for achal. He ate it, and he died. And Nechemia went around screaming, calling out, "Boy, b'saftu la'aruga shel Nechemia. Let's go be maspid, the one that Nechemia killed." Right? In other words, the Gemara is just pointing out that Nechemia should have given him what he wanted. Of course, again, you're supposed to be sensitive to people, what they need. If that's what he needed, that's what he needed. You know. One of the more well-known people in Shas is Nachum Ish Kamsu. Nachum Ish Kamsu was the Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva. We all know that the matter, he had a horrible, horrible life, but everything that happened to him, he said, Gamsu Toiva, that's what it's called, Nachum Ish Kamsu. We have this Gemara in Tainus, and we have the Gemara here. There's certain differences between the two. So Nachum Ish Kamsu, he was bringing a gift to the Beis Chomav, to his father-in-law. A person who was covered with skin all over his body, met him, and Amalei Zocha Imi Mimad, the Iskaba, give me something that you have. Amalei, I guess it was in a rush, Michasa. When I return, I'll go ahead and I'll give to you. When I return, I'll give to you. Chazer, he returned, but Ashlich Mason, he found that he died. He found Nebuch that this person had died. And the eyes that saw this, that didn't provide for you, Yis Tamayin, they should be blind. Yodad le Poshtan Mitan Lach, the hands that would not stick out to give to you, Yis Kadayin, they should be cut off. Ragloyo de le Rotin le Mitan Lach, right, the legs that didn't run to go ahead and give to you, Yit Barun. Umatio came, tak, all those things, Matasa came, all those things happened to Nachum, everything. Salchul Rabbi Akiva, Amalei, I didn't see you like this. The horrible. Amalei said Nachum to Rabbi Akiva, Oili she'ein ani roya sabakach. That oili that I don't see you like this. Amalei mat mekaleni Rebbe, you be me. I should be like this. So Amalei said Nachum to Rabbi Akiva, Umaat mevaya be yisurim. Are you going ahead on and kicking away yisurim? Rabbi Akiva, he had yisurim, and he was Kabbalah Avim. Rabbi Shaya Rabba, Rabbi Shaya the Great. Havi Rabbi Debrei, Havi Rabbi Debrei Chatzagi Nahira. He had a Rebbe for his son who was blind. And he was, and Rabbi Hisha the Great would eat with this blind person every single day. Chatzman Havilei Orchim. One time Rabbi Shai had Orchim, and he didn't want to go ahead and eat with the blind person because he didn't know what the people would say. They might make fun of the blind person or what was Makabadik. The Ramsha in the evening, Salachul Gadei, Rabbi Shai the Great went and apologized to the blind person, the Rebbe. Amalei, Layichas Marialai, do not be angry at me. Begin because the Havilei Orchim, since I Orchim, Yuma, Dain this day, Damisan, Levusein Biyakra, the Mari, right? They shouldn't go ahead and be Vaza, the cover of the Mara, Yuma Dain this day. Begin, Kain Lay Achlis, Mari, Yuma Dain. That's why I didn't with you today. So Amalei, Ata Paisato, he said, you will fire me. Lamandim is, listen to this lesson, guys. Lamandim is Chame, V'lei from the one that is seen but can't see, right? That's me. I'm seen but I can't see. Dain the Chami, the one who does see, blame is Chamim but can't be seen. The Baruch Shalom, Yikabel Piyusach, Yishmakabelat Yipiyusim. Hear the lashon? Beautiful lashon, right? It's such a beautiful lashon that Rabbi Shai wanted to know where you got it from. I'm like, so Amalei at the Pisata, but Lamandim is Chami. So he said, Amalei Chodim Inachla. Where do you know this from? Amalei, Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov, from the great Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. The Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov, Ol Chad the Sagino Lekrasei, and came to greet him, a certain blind person. Yasser Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov l'ra minei. He placed him beneath him. The Yamran, the Ilu Havi Bar Nasha. Rabbi, that they say this is a great person. In other words, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, I guess, sat beneath him. So le Yosef le Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov le Raminei, or else Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov would not let him sit above him. So Avnei Parnasa the Yaakov, this blind person, they gave, obviously he was doing really well, They figured something's up. So Amalei, Mahu Hechen, what's going on over here? Why am I making so much money? So Amalei, they told him Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Yosef le Raminach, right? And he's sitting below you to go ahead and elevate you. But Soli Alavei Hodas Lusa, and the blind person said this feel about Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Ata Gamalta Chesed Lemandim Mischamev Lechami. You were going to Chesed to one who's seeing but does not see. Dein Dechami, the one who sees, V'lei Mischamev but can't be seen. Yigmol Yischa Chesed. We got Chesed to you. Beautiful, beautiful lashon. Taka, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. The Gemara, what do you say? The halachas Mishnayos Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Kav v'Naki. Kav, they're not many of them, but Naki, they're clean. The halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. So in other words, obviously, he was zeicher to, again, because of his tremendous sensitivity. It's very interesting. You see, when it comes to Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes into account the sensitivity, right? We saw the Gemara in Daf Yud Gimel in Eruvin, machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. We said Beis Shammai were mucharif, but the halachas of Beis Hillel, because why? They were more they were more ruyadik with people and treated people. And again, and anytime Hillel quoted Beis Shammai, always put Beis Shammai first, and therefore the halachas like them. So you see, it's good to hear Rabbi Rosen's wife for chinuch, right? You see that the sensitivity HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes into account in the Torah vis-a-vis psak halacha. Here again, you see the great sensitivity of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, kafin mishlas Rabbi Eliezer, kafin naki. Why? Because of his tremendous sensitivity to this blind individual. Rav Chamu bar Chanina of Rav Hoshaya, having with Hayilinim be'ilon knishta de Lud, they were walking among the base knesses of Lud, which must have been very beautiful. Some Rav Chamu bar Chanina of Rav Hoshaya, kama moment shikoy avoisai. How much money was the Chachamim put into my father's put into this place? Some like how many nefashos shiko of a sefakan? How many nefashos did he bury here? In other words, they he could have used this money for people supporting people and learning, and he used it to beautify a place. Like Havi Ispei Nosh the Loin Baraisa, he didn't have enough people that he could have gone ahead and supported. Rav Chaim says, if he had money, it's better to use the money to go ahead and support Torah than to build these beautiful edifices, right? It's much more important. Never, you go to these towns, right? Sometimes you go to a town out of town. There's big shuls, right? The big shuls.
Hundreds of seats.
And Cheskel said he lived in Lausanne. He lived in Lausanne in Switzerland. Shul held 300 people. Shabbos, you couldn't even get them in. It was like unbelievable. It was unbelievable, You get a little base measures, a little shtibel, right? Hey. Jamaica, right? How was that? Yes. There you go. It's good to have you back, Chaim, even though you didn't tuchen for us. Rav Oven Elon Tari the Sidra. Rav Oven, he went ahead and he donated for gates of the Sidra Rabbah of a great yeshiva. Again, the same concept. Rav Manas came. Rav Oven said, "Chami my avodas. Look what I did." Rav Manas gave him a zog. V'yishach Yisrael esayu. But even a cholos and Yisrael, they forgot their maker. But even a cholos, they build edifices. They've been their cholos. Like having been nosh the yom baraisa, you didn't have a person you could have supported in Torah. Okay, so now we said that the last part of the Mishnah, we said that anything that was anything that the gizbar was extra, the lishkas hakelim, they would go ahead and use what they would use for Berek HaBayis. Good. They use for Berek HaBayis. Says the Mishnah. Ein kachi Berek HaBayis. Tani kachi Berek Mizbeach might sisnas aroy lehen. Mi kachi Berek HaBayis. If you need more money for kachi Mizbeach, you could take from kachi Berek HaBayis. But ein kachi Berek HaBayis might sisnas aroy lehen mi kachi Mizbeach. But if you needed more money for the Berek HaBayis, you couldn't take from the Trumas Alishka. In other words, if we ran out of money for Kabbonis, then you could take the money from Berek HaBayis. But Berek HaBayis, we could not take the other way. Even was roilim mizbeach l'choyre you sold it leberek habayis. Mashma, it's limited to the berek habayis. You can't use it for the mizbeach, guys, right? You want to tell me if it's berek habayis, use mizbeach? It says over here, whatever's roilim mizbeach, go ahead, use for that, and anything's actually you put the berek habayis, not mizbeach. The domain of the berek habayis. Learn the Mishnah, Lishkas Berek HaBayis. Just say, it's not teaching us the halacha what to do with the money. It's saying where it goes to what? To the Lishkas Berek HaBayis. But in the Chinami, if you would need more, you could use it for what? For the Mizbeach. Hadlach perach Elohim amunim, hadlach perach Elomunim, hadlach perach Elohim me'amunim. Okay, so now we're new parak. Again, going on so much, no beautiful, just enjoyable Gemara. Shloisha esrei shofrais. There were 13 shofrais. Shofarais. So I tied it a pushka, but it really was. This is the place they put their money in. We've met it before. One that different names for it. We'll see the name soon. Tikkun Chadakin, Tikkun Atikin, Zavim, Zavais. Narrow in the top, wider in the bottom. Narrow in the top that you couldn't be able to go ahead and take from the till, right? Skim off the top. Yeah, right. So what's that right? Shloisha shulchanais. There were 13 shulchanais. Shloisha esrei hishtachaviyos chayim b'mikdash. There were 13 places they bowed down. Shal beis Rabbi Gamliel v'shal beis Rabbi Chananias Sagana Kahanim hayim mishtachvim ba'arba asrei. Right, 14th place. The Heichen Hoysa Yisera, where was the extra place? Keneged Dir Ha'etzim. It was Keneged the deer, literally the corral, the wood chamber, the wood bin where they kept the wood. They would bow down to that area. Shekain Messiris Biyadam Me'avosehem. They had a Messiah from their fathers. Shesham Ha'arim Nignes. There, that's where the Arim was hidden. We're going to go into Arichas today, exactly what happened to the Arim. So Ma'aseh B'Koyin Echad, he was misasik with the Bavli says he was a balmum. You know the job of the balmum? He would check the wood to make sure that it wasn't wormy. So the Bavli says, what is he doing? He was Isaac in checking the wood. And he saw the tiles of the base deer of Eitzim, that it was different from its chaver, meaning it was probably a different color, or maybe perhaps it was raised differently. It was not like it had been removed and replaced. He came and told his friend about it. Like hispik ligmar es hadavar, he did not get a chance to go ahead and complete a sentence. Till he died. They knew for sure that's the place where the Aron was hidden. They knew for sure that's the place the Aron was hidden. In the Bavli, I think they would say it also. He hit it with a hammer. Fire came up and burnt them. So that we'll see. But okay, Tani hashafaras halalu. These shafaras, these pushkis, these boxes. Akumas Hoyu, they were at an angle, they were crooked, and Soras Milmailin, they were narrow at the top, the Rochvois Milmata and wide at the bottom, Mifnei Haramoyim. Tana B'Shem Rabbi Elazar, Ha'aron Gila Moyim LeBavel, the Aron went in Gaulis with them to Bavel. So seemingly argues on our Mishnah that the Aron was not in the base there, but the Aron was going to Bavel, which again, this is a subject of dispute as we see over here. Good. So obviously, Rebbe Elazar is disagreeing and saying that the Aron was not hidden over there, and it was in fact it went to Bavel. What does it say? Lo Yosef davar amar Hashem ein davar elishad adibas l'soichai. So Yosef, nothing will be left over, right? It'll be carried off to Bavel. Davar Hashem, the one that had the dibros, the play on words, davar, the one that had the dibros was carried off to Bavel. V'cheinu oimer u'letshuvas hashana shalach hamelech Nebuchadnezzar v'yaviu b'Bavla im kli chemdas beis Hashem. Eza kli chemdas beis Hashem. What's the kli that is the most precious of what the beis Hashem? Zeho Arin. So this argues on our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says it was hidden in the Beis Hamikdash proper. Over here it says according to Rabbi Elazar, it was carried off the Bavel. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Omer b'mkomo haya Arin nignaz. It was hidden in the Kodesh Kedoshim. It wasn't in the base deer of the Eitzim. It was in the Kodesh Kedoshim. Hadu d'chsev vayirichu habadim. The badim extended. Vayiru rashi habadim. You could see the sticks of the Arin el HaKodesh pointing out to the Kodesh. El pnei advir, according to the face of the devir of the Kodesh Kedoshim. Vayiru chutza, but you didn't see the sticks on the outside. Fred the Gemara ksiv vayiru at amev vayiro. You see, you said you could see it, but you couldn't see it. El anirin v'loinerin. You could see it, but you couldn't see it. Bolton v'yotzin k'shtei dada isha, like a woman's chest. You saw it bolting out. For Rabbanan Amri, belishkas dir ha'etzim hayu aron ganus. It was like our Mishnah. It was the Yishdir ha'etzim. And Ma'aseh Koinecha Balmum, here it is. He was going ahead and literally whittling eitzim, belishkas there eitzim. V'roas haritzpa she mishtana michavrasa. Bo v'omer l'chaveroi bo reis haritzpa hazoi shehi mishtana michavrasa like hispik ligmer esadavrat sheyatzin nishmasa v'yeda beyichid sheshama aron ganus. They knew for sure that the aron was in fact hidden over there. So yeah, have a machloikis where it was the aron in Bavel, was the aron in the Kachik Kadashim, or the aron was in this base there.
Wasn't it 2 arons?
What? Okay, so we'll get into machlokas with 2 aronis, but be aware there's a very, very, very famous Maisa, very, very famous Maisa. I saw it b'ksav in Hebrew, and the first time it's exposed to in a book called All for the Boss. There was a famous guy in America at the turn of the century, Yaakov Yosef Herman. He was a very, very wealthy man. He was a Faria. He was a very, very wealthy man, and he was an unbelievable machnas areach. Every gadol who came to America stayed by him. Every single one stayed by him because he was so faleslich and outstanding in his kashrus and his hachdasas archem. They all stayed by him. He got a person shows up from Eretz Yisrael. He was a farmer, and he was working in his field, and he got a sinkhole. It got a sinkhole in his field. And I think it was his Arab worker, and they walked in, and according to the Arab, called him in, and he saw Kalim, and among the Kalim he saw was the Aron. He went ahead, and I think he buried the guy alive. He buried the Arab alive. He not killed. I don't know what he did, and he wanted to know what to do, and he came to America. He told this Maisa, and his son was learning by the Chafetz Chaim in Radin, and Yaakov Yosef sent a message to his son, the Chafetz Chaim, about it, and Chafetz Chaim said, "Oh no, it's not this man. It's not this man." So based upon that story, it's not in Bavel Taka. It's a hiding place, and it would substantiate the people who held that obviously that ground somehow was. Okay. Again, we the Messiah we have, as we can see in the Gemara, that Yoshio Melech hit it. That Yoshio Melech hit it. Okay, so that's the Messiah we have in the Gemara. Okay, so let's see what we have over here. Tani Rabbi Shia Hikish Aleha Bekurnis. Rabbi Yeshua says that this person, he banged the ground with a hammer, the yotza eish v'sarafta, and burnt them up. Tani Rabbi Yehud ben Lakish. Now this is not Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. This is not Reish Lakish. This is a Tana. This is a Tana Rabbi Yehud ben Lakish. Ama shnei roinos. Like Dak said, there were 2 roinos. Mahalchim in Yisrael b'midbar. Echad shehoysa Torah nesuna b'saychay. One that the Torah was in. The echad shehoy shivrei luchas nesun b'saychay. And one that the broken pieces of the luchas were in. It didn't leave. The one that the broken luchas inside of it, they went in front of them, they went to war with them. And one time and Rabbanan say, Orin Echad Haya, there was only one. One time they went out to war against the Palestinians in the day of Eli, Vinishpa, and it was captured. Now, during that time, it was captured. It was in the hands of the Palestinians for 7 months. It was in the hands of the Palestinians for 7 months. Avram Avinu had made a bris with Avimelech, and he shouldn't have made that bris. And he set aside 7 Beersheva. He set aside 7 cows. Connected that 7 for 7 months in the hands of the Palestinians. Plishtim suffered greatly. Wherever they brought the Aron, people were suffering from tremendous. It was a gastroman's delight. They were suffering from hemorrhoids, and it seems that rats or mice would crawl into the intestines and eat them up. It was nishta geschmackazach. And what happened was they sent it back. They took 2 nursing cows that A, left their young. B, cows don't pull wagons, oxen pull wagons. Without a driver, they put the Aron, and it went right back to Beit Shemesh. They sent along with it a piece of golden mice and golden hemorrhoids. And why do I bring that in? Because the Gemara is going to tell you that's the matana, that the gift that they sent, and it's money that you're not going to get in most other places.
It's better than
So now you know. Now you know. Now you know I used to come to share that. Anyway, so
give it away.
That's a chasima, huh? Okay.
Thinking of you.
So once that was captured, right? And Kari Messiah Rabbanon, that there was only one. Oh, what happened when the Plishtim saw it? Oy lanu, woes to us. Mi yatzilenu miyare elikim ha'adir me'ela. In other words, if it gone out, obviously they never saw it before. So that's right, there's only one, because if there's two, they would have seen it. Milad lechamin min yumin, something that chamin they hadn't seen the whole days. And Kari Messiah Reb Yudah, there's one that's a writer of Yudah ben Lakish, Reb Yudah ben Lakish. V'yoyme Shol Achia. Shol asked whether he should go to war. He didn't wait for an answer. Hegisha Aron Elakim. No, that's a different thing. He said, "Bring the Aron Hashem." He was going to battle, and the Aron was in Kiryat Yarim. So what do you mean, bring the Aron? Ma'avdan le Rabbanon. So what did Rabbanon do with that pasuk? Mashmir is two. Hegisha la it sits. I thought one place it says, "Bring the box that the Urim v'Tumim was in." Yeah, Urim v'Tumim. Okay, anyway. So Kor Messiah of Yehuda and Lakish, that there was two. Harim b'Yisrael v'Yehuda Yoshin b'Sukkos. Mashma that one's in Sukkos and one's in the Kiryat Yarim. V'lo Arim b'Tzir and Hoya was in Yerushalayim. Ma'oven leRabbanon. What do you do with that proof? Schach shuhu yakikiroi. That it was in Yerushalayim, but it was in a temporary dwelling that had schach like a kiroi. Shadayin lo nivna beis habechira. Beis habechira hadn't built a permanent resting place yet. Mishnigdas Arin, Nigdas Imoy. When the Arin was hidden, it was hidden with it since Senes Hamon, the flask of Mon, with Sluchos Shemen HaMishcha, and the flask of the Shemen HaMishcha, Umakle Shel Aron, and Aron's stick, Upochov, and it's on the stick, it's flowers, Ushkedov, and the almonds, Va'argaz, and the box Sheshiva Plishtim, and the box that the Shiva Plishtim Osham, Lolakei Yisrael, right? That they returned. That was that contained those golden things. Mi Gonzu, who hid the Arin? Yeshiyahu Gonzu. Yeshiyahu, the Melech Yeshiyahu, hid the Arin. He was one of the last kings of Yehuda. Kimishara Shekosiv, since he saw it, says Yalech Hashem Oischa, that's Malkacha, Asher Tokam Alecha El Goya Shelo Yadata, Atav Avsecha, Kodesh Baruch will put into Golus you, your king, that will rise up against you, a nation that you or your Avsecha did not know, the Kazdim. Amad Begonzu, he stood up and he hid it. Hodu dechsiv vayomel levim hamevinim ulechol Yisrael hakadoshim Hashem tenuas ha'aron hakodesh bebeis asher bana Shlomo ben David melech Yisrael ein lechem masa b'ksaftet. You can't amahem im goyel hu imachem lebavel ein atam machzirin esay. If it goes to Bavel, you'll never get it back. Oidlim komo el ata ivdu es Hashem elokechem esam Yisrael. Okay, and esam Yisrael. Okay, we'll stop over here. Okay, so now in fact, guys, listen up, because tomorrow night.